Hello, everyone. I'm Colin of WrestleZone.com, joined by Robert DeFelice tonight to talk about WWE Friday Night SmackDown. Robert, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing about as good as one can do on a Friday night when you got GCW on a Sunday night. And I'm just very excited. And we saw some GCW superstars. We saw a GCW superstar, maybe the most ultra-violent superstar in the history of GCW on tonight's episode of SmackDown.
And who might that be, Robert?
Of course.
Dive right into it. Let's go.
Let's talk about it. Jeff Jarrett, the low-key greatest of all time. I'm really starting to get on this bandwagon. Jeff Jarrett's got a career like nobody else, and I'm so excited to see him on Sunday wrestling Effie, and he was on SmackDown tonight with Rick Boogs and old Shinsuke Nakamura, and I like it. I'm a Jeff Jarrett mark. I think legitimately, not like last week where I said I enjoyed Moose. Jeff Jarrett's my guy. I like Jeff Jarrett.
I think no matter what, you've got to respect Jeff Jarrett for what he has done, for what he's still doing. Robert, you mentioned he will be competing at GCW, the World on GCW on Sunday. So a little sidebar, I'll be covering that here for WrestleZone on Sunday. So if you're watching the show, if you're not watching the show, I've got you covered. I'll be watching along. I'm looking forward to it. Jeff Jarrett and Effie will be a good one. And maybe that's why I was not exactly expecting to see Effie. Sorry, wow. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Effie popped up on SmackDown?
That's a different show. That is
my
different
gosh.
show entirely. Effie shows up on SmackDown and.
Well, he didn't. It was Jeff Jarrett still. I didn't expect that. We know Jeff Jarrett's been doing his thing with GCW and other things. He's doing great stuff. But it was cool, right? Jeff Jarrett, Double J, and you had a fun interaction with Rick Boogs. On paper, I wouldn't have called this, but now that it happened, I'm like, who else would he have interacted with? You got Jeff Jarrett and the guitar, Rick Boogs and the guitar. Like, it makes sense, right? It's fine. It was fine.
Elias was drafted to SmackDown,
but Elias is dead, Robert.
That's true. Elias is dead. Elias, poor son of a bitch.
I'm wearing my the classic Vince McMahon Such Good-ish shirt from the WrestleMania 36 Firefly Funhouse in honor of this show because we saw plenty of good-ish tonight. Let me tell you. I say that sarcastically and maybe not so sarcastically. There was good stuff and bad stuff and everywhere in between. A bunch of comments off the bat. Ness just saying Eric Bischoff and Double J on, I guess, what she's calling a quiet episode of SmackDown. I don't think it was quiet. The first 10 minutes pretty darn good. Then we had a real kind of a lull for a bit, and then they packed a bunch of stuff into the second hour there. We had Jeff Jarrett, and then if I want to dive into another cameo, Eric Bischoff. He's back. He's better than ever. Second time in 2 months. Eric Bischoff here on SmackDown. Well, he was on SmackDown Raw the first time. Now he's on SmackDown. This time, Robert, didn't exactly feel like a meaningless cameo. Maybe a bit a little more significance to this one with him teaching Adam Pearce about leadership.
I mean, if anybody knows anything about long-term leadership on SmackDown, it is the former executive director of SmackDown, Eric Bischoff, who held that position for a historic month. All right? Let me tell you about long-term storytelling because Eric Bischoff is back on Friday nights. I love it. I will never get tired of seeing Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff is he's just that era for me where I enjoy wrestling. So I want more of Eric Bischoff. In fact, I want Eric Bischoff as the GM of SmackDown. You don't got to show up every week, show up on cameos or whatever, but I'd like to see him in that position.
They have referenced a higher power here on SmackDown for quite a while now. We have some implication that it's not just Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, that there's somebody above them. Could it be Eric Bischoff? Maybe. I think that's kind of an interesting idea about that. I highly doubt it. I'm just saying, they kind of teased it tonight a little bit, and they've definitely teased that it's somebody. And obviously, Eric Bischoff very much qualified to do that. But as you mentioned, Robert, even just the general fan enjoyment, and that's just saying, so he enjoys Eric Bischoff as well. Again, just like Jeff Jarrett, no matter how you feel about them in one way, no matter what, you've got to really respect what they've brought to the business. With Brian saying Bischoff helped launch the Attitude Era, and obviously all of his contributions from WCW, all these things, undisputed. Absolutely, he's just a historic figure in the wrestling world here today. So if this was one-off for him on SmackDown, cool. If it wasn't, and there's more to it. Also cool. I'd be curious to see what happens there. But no, those are pretty much kind of back to back. There was like just two kind of unexpected cameos, kind of adding a little flair to SmackDown here. And likewise, I was saying, oh, you're to see Double J. So that was fun. I'm always a fan of these kind of fun cameos, whether they're meaningless or again maybe with Bischoff, maybe a little more substance there, or maybe not. I don't know. But to backtrack, the show started with the Bloodline celebrating admittedly a little delayed Roman Reigns' 508 days record-breaking reign as the Universal Champion. They didn't really get much opportunity to really celebrate. They had a nice fancy video package to honor the occasion, but then before Reigns could even so much as say "Acknowledge me, Nashville," we had Seth Rollins come out to the ring and just ruin his party. He and this was definitely eye-opening. He referenced the he who shall not be named, Robert Mox. He referenced Dean Ambrose on live on WWE TV, sending the internet into a tizzy. And then also, in doing so, he was saying that just as he and he said Mox, Dean Ambrose, held Reigns up back in the Shield days, now so too are the Usos holding him up. Pretty good comparison there.
I mean, Rollins saying Mox just 8 days before there's a rumored Forbidden Door Royal Rumble entrant. What did that
happen, pal?
I mean,
look, my mind would explode if that happened at this point.
I think they're so tied together. It's one of the reasons why there was a time where you wouldn't think that Mox would ever leave.
Nope.
Because that Shield was such an iconic time in WWE. Maybe one of the last really iconic angles. And yeah, you gotta mention Mox. If you gotta call him Mox, you gotta call him Mox. The world knows who Mox is, you know.
But they like to pretend that there is no world out on the outside, other than
I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore when they have the Impact Knockouts champion in the Royal Rumble.
I was just gonna say, right, there are exceptions. Maybe they are being a little more willing to at least acknowledge these things. So that's a plus. But no, I thought this was very good. Good promo. We had a nice kind of exchange with them last week. Reigns saying that the real star in their household is Becky Lynch. It's getting pretty heated over here, and that continued tonight when Rollins set the stage for a big time main event where he said, "All right, let's do it. I want to face the Usos," because Reigns gave him his word they would not be ringside for the match. He's like, "I don't trust you. I don't believe that," to riff off his old catchphrase. So tag team, Rollins a partner of choosing against the Usos. Problem is, in Reigns' mind, Rollins doesn't have friends. Nobody likes this guy. Who would possibly team with Seth Rollins in 2022? Kevin Owens, WWE Raw superstar. He, of the other side of the brand split, supposedly, arrives to team up with his good old buddy, who he's been teaming up with often here on Raw, or at least kind of working alongside. So, setting stage for a fun main event. We'll talk about that in a bit. But this was the first
time of the week again, Colin. Time for me to tell you all that you need to end the brand split because you're not doing anything with it. You've got Raw guys on SmackDown. You got SmackDown guys on Raw. I'm sure there might be a little voice in your head saying no, but no, I think you should end the brand split because it's not worth it. It's what are you doing with it? If you're gonna do a brand split, then you need to have separate pay-per-views. You need to make the champions feel special. Like we mentioned, Ambrose. When Ambrose was champion on SmackDown fighting AJ, and they were having separate pay-per-views, it felt special. This doesn't feel special. So you got to do something new with it.
I mean, for me at this point, maybe more than anything, the reason to do away with the brand split is because we're just sit here and get mad every time. Or not mad. We just kind of, it's something that's
a
little irksome. It's like got something to talk about. It's like, might as well just not do it anymore because, as you just said, there's no real point to it other than the very kind of surface level. Oh, I'm sure the network executives want the shows to be different. Well, if that's the only reason you're doing it anymore, then that's maybe indicative of some other problems. But
WWE most often than not hits different, so you just need it.
Well, the brand split has not been hitting different lately. It's been very much the same kind of thing. Occasional crossovers and things that really just make it pretty much meaningless. But at the very least, we're going to be trying to be positive. Kevin Owens being on TV is always a good thing. Whether it's on Raw, where he's supposed to be, or on SmackDown, where he's not supposed to be, it's a darn good thing. Shawn Nichols and Owens does bring that excitement. I got to agree. And this obviously does kind of make you wonder, as we have over on the Raw side of things, how this might play out for the Rumble. for tonight. I mean, it's for SmackDown. It was in the tag match, but I do feel like, at least as one potential outcome, you could see him, as Ness is saying, leading to trouble here in the Rumble, whether that's against Rollins or Reigns, possibly. But at this point, definitely, this match is interesting because, again, my gut says Reigns. There's no way Reigns loses, but I just don't know. I feel like there's a chance that we could see Rollins winning, but DJ pointing out maybe Kevin Owens cost Rollins, and then they have a feud or something. They have a lot of kind of options here, and it is interesting to think about how they could proceed.
Yeah, sure it is. I mean, of course, the Royal this time of the year always allows for anything to happen in the world of WWE. And as I see the comments scrolling by here, I see a comment asking me, how would I explain what I pitched to the networks? And that's simple. Hey guys, everybody gets Roman. Everybody gets Becky. There, I explained it to the networks. Yeah, I mean, this time of year, anything can happen. Everybody's looking to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, that's really the best reason to do it. It's like, why limit, Brock Lesnar to one show or Roman Reigns to one show?
Well, you're not limiting Brock Lesnar to one show. He's able to just go between Raw and SmackDown.
I mean, as an example, Robert, I'm just saying, like, in general, why not have Becky Lynch on both shows, Charlotte Flair, whoever it might be. I do think there's something to be said to that. But no, especially this week, two clear violations, if you will, of said brand split definitely does beg the question. But for the Rumble here, potentially, again, Kevin Owens maybe getting involved, maybe he costs Rollins, maybe he costs Reigns. Definitely some options. I do want to say, hats off to creative, or if it was just Kevin Owens, he had an interview later in the show explaining, hey, y'all remember when I feuded with Roman Reigns for like 4 months, and the Usos cost me literally, or like at that point I think it was Jay, cost me every single time. That's why I'm here tonight. That's why I want to fight them and help out my good buddy Seth. I'm like, Robert, it makes sense, and I just love when things make sense.
One thing doesn't make sense, but we'll deal with this. You can deal with this with John on the Monday show, and that's he feuded with Rollins for like a solid 9 months. And now they're just best friends.
But that was a longer time ago, so we're supposedly just gonna sweep that under the rug.
There's maybe about a good 5-month distance between that feud and the Roman feud. I mean, I just well, if we're gonna ask about logic, let's just ask all the questions.
I don't want to contradict myself. I did point that out on the Raw show. Because that is a big glaring, like, wow, they had this long rivalry, and now
they're over there on Raw, like hugging. Oh, we're best friends. This is my guy. It's like, wait a minute. This feud was so long ago. It has several people that that are now released. The AOP, Buddy Murphy, Big Show, Joe. I mean, did I say some? I'm sorry, everybody that was in that feud is now released. Aleister Black, But yeah. I like it. It does make a little bit of sense. At least Rollins does have some backup. I'll say this. I don't really care because this match at the Rumble is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks that Rollins is going to beat Roman except for this rumor that keeps going around that
right.
It was supposed to be Rollins and Big E at Mania. But I don't necessarily feel like that's Mania.
No, we'll talk more about the Rumble in a minute, but I have seen that rumor as well, and that's really the reason why I'm even doubting. It's like, well, is there any kind of truth to that? I don't know. But speaking of Roman and everything here, DJ is asking the question, why would Roman cost Usos the match tonight? Do we see the Bloodline disbanding? Bruce Usos could cost Reigns. They're going to draw this thing out. I mean, anything's possible, but if anything, my money would be on Owens getting involved one way or the other, not the Usos turning on him. This was simply, I would think, just Reigns. We've seen this before. Reigns is like an angry toddler sometimes. He comes out, gets mad, like he's like, okay, Rollins is looking a little too good against my fellow Bloodline guys here. I gotta put him down. And even if that kind of the consequences may outweigh the immediate benefit, that's what he does. He gets mad and he takes action, takes charge. The tribal chief does what he wants.
And I think it was also sending a message. I mean,
yeah,
Rollins tried to punk him out and be like, yeah, they're holding you up now. And Reigns is going to be like, no, bitch. I own them. They don't hold me up from anything. And he proved that by costing them the match. And like realistically, Rollins is maybe the only person on the main roster not named Brock Lesnar who can defeat Roman Reigns, and there be very little questioning about it. Like maybe Rollins, McIntyre, and maybe Lashley, because
You mean in terms of like believability?
of
or
like believability. If Roman had to lose to somebody tomorrow,
yeah.
those would be the three, because Rollins has done literally everything. He's beaten Cena, he's beaten Brock. There's like nobody that Rollins hasn't beaten. So if he beats Roman, it's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. You know, it seems again, it's realistic, and that's why I'm expressing any even doubt, because it feels possible. Whereas, you know, who do you even face last? I don't even know. Like Finn Balor, you knew it wasn't going to be Finn Balor. Like,
Poor
I'm sorry.
Finn Balor.
It's a damn shame.
Poor Finn
My
Balor.
gosh.
This poor guy was like the top guy on NXT, and now he's like, what is he even doing? Is he even declared for the Rumble?
I feel like he's not. I feel like he's not.
That's disgusting. That's honestly, that's sad.
You know who is declared for the Rumble? Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah.
Who made a jackass out of Sami Zayn tonight by turning the cattle prod against him and putting him where the sun don't shine, and tossing him over the ropes in a clear sign that Johnny Knoxville is going to win the Rumble this year, because that's the thing that had to happen on SmackDown tonight.
Let me devil's advocate for a second. Why not? What is the worst thing that can like, okay, Johnny Knoxville wins the Royal Rumble. Now we're going to WrestleMania, and it's a jackass themed WrestleMania. Like, you got Steve-O, you got, you know, Darby Allin, maybe? Like,
yeah, okay.
Forbidden Door?
Man, Brian right here, right off the bat, he hates Knoxville being in the Rumble. Hate is a strong word. I strongly dislike it.
But you really
say it.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You didn't do it. You didn't do it.
But I really don't like it. I'm just saying it's not good. Like this, they've got, granted, not maybe not the depth they once had, but you've probably got at least 30 more people that deserve to be in this match more than him that could actually claim the right to potentially challenge for a title at WrestleMania, when, barring a wild, weird scenario as the one Robert just pitched, you know it's not going to Johnny Knoxville. So it's really just like, what are we doing here? Other than, I guess, product placement, or whatever you want to call it. Because yes, he does have a movie. I understand, okay, but I actually prefer the WrestleMania Backlash Zombies to this, because like this is the Rumble, man. Get him out. And I know it's not the first time.
I watched Drew Carey in a Royal Rumble. I'm good with this. Johnny Knoxville needs to come in number 1. Omos needs to be number 2. And it needs to turn into a bit where he can look into a camera and go, I'm Johnny Knoxville, welcome to Jackass. Run into Omos. Omos can toss him into the first row, and then we're done. Like, I'm not offended by this.
I'm not offended. I just don't like it, and it's fine. I don't have to like everything. I never like everything that happens on a show. Iridian, friend of the show, Iridian pointed out, yes, just 1 year ago, Bad Bunny was doing cool stuff. Bad Bunny, come on. I mean, I didn't even know who Bad Bunny was, but at least he seemed cool. And then he wound up being cool. He had a hell of a match for WrestleMania, but it wasn't by winning the Rumble. He was teaming up with Damian Priest when Damian Priest was still cool, facing Miz and Morrison, 2 highly entertaining people. Like, apples and oranges. Like, that's not the same. And just shows you how much time has changed. Because this has, again, barring a wild scenario where it actually does win, this to me has a very limited shelf life. Other than, surprisingly, yes, he actually has been on SmackDown, feeding with Sami Zayn, making a whole thing of it. So that's cool. Iridian does point out, yeah, it's a celeb of the Rumble season. This is not unprecedented. I'm not saying that. I guess I'm maybe more just saying I don't typically care for this kind of thing anyway. So and now having it on SmackDown kind of weekly, we're doing it for me. That's fine. It'll be over, and
it'll be over in 8 nights, and we'll never talk about Johnny Knoxville again. And it is what it is. Like,
yeah. Shout out to Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, the ink not even dried on his new deal, reportedly to be signed with WWE. So
reported by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. Go to FightfulSelect.com.
Indeed. There you go. I saw that news. I get kind of like Kevin Owens. I'm like, well, that's what he wants to do. Good for him.
The thing is, they're peanut butter and jelly. So like once the one signed, I was like, all right, I don't need to see Sammy go somewhere without Kevin. I have no interest. They are
complete
peanut
each
butter and
other.
jelly.
Yes.
They go together. They really do.
I agree. It made sense, maybe kind of a chain reaction in a way. So it's good. It's good for the company, obviously, to have them both there. Here's hoping that they actually do good things with the two of them. Gonna have to wait and see on that one. But someone we didn't have to wait and see, Robert. 1 week after the absolute classic of a match between Kofi Kingston and Madcap Moss, we got the most highly anticipated rematch between two of the top stars on SmackDown just 1 week later. And then Kofi Kingston won. So it's 50-50. None of it matters until, I guess, they'll have a tag team match next week. Because, yes, and then second time the brand split died tonight. Big E, again, always good to see him. Cool, great, wonderful. Comes out, WWE Raw star Big E. So they have a tag team match for next week. This is one of the things I'm like, does this need to be a thing right now? Like,
hey, Big E's on SmackDown. You should end the brand split so the New Day could be together. Hey, look, I figured it out. New Day. You got hey, Universal. Hey, Fox. You guys get the New Day. You ain't gotta fight about it because you both get the New Day. Everybody wins.
Everybody wins when there's more New Day, and that's a good thing. Big E and Kofi, as much pointing out, it's a good thing. That is good, and again, that's why maybe there shouldn't be the brand split anymore. And I would agree. I'm sitting here not so patiently waiting for them to kind of take a look in the mirror and say like, wow, this Madcap Moss thing, it's really not doing it because it's not. I just
it's doing it for, and I'm not even being a show here. On Fightful, we have a running post of every joke he's told in 2022. So Gisberto Guzzo, it's hitting with him because he's got a running tally of the jokes. I think it's a damn shame. I know Rick Moss was gonna have some big things his way when Heyman was on top of Raw.
Good match.
And clearly he's got big things coming his way, but like Madcap Moss, he can't just be Riddick Moss who tells bad jokes.
Gotta be Madcap. Gotta have a dumb name because that's what we do nowadays. I guess stuff like Jacket Time is the flavor of the season. I guess Brian Everett. Yes, Madcap Moss is a terrible gimmick. I don't really care for it. If you like the jokes, cool. But I will never forget the one joke he made about like someone suffocating under one of the Vikings, and I was like, that's not great. All right.
Yeah.
It's not good. Like Kevin Taylor saying he's not funny. That's the point. Like I know he's not supposed to actually be funny, but it's just so obnoxious. Like it's not like, oh boo you. Like no, it's get off my TV. Like this is not the performer, the character. I'm just saying, I long for the day that I don't have to talk about this because like
I don't because I like Riddick Moss. I
like the performer. I'm just saying it's a very very bad gimmick.
I love Baron Corbin should have been a world champion by now. Like badass Baron Corbin doing the lone wolf, the bare knuckle, golden glove stuff. It's like beat the crap out of people. You're legit like 6'10" dude. Why is he not running through people? Like that drives me insane.
Fun fact, as pointed out in commentary tonight, Happy Corbin has not lost a match, at least on television, since he stopped being Sad Sack Moss Sad Sack Corbin, whatever he was called.
Has he wrestled? Like I feel like he hasn't wrestled much this year.
No, this year probably not much.
Good for him though. I mean, he's really good. I want to see him win a belt this year. I really do. I think you could do a lot worse than Baron Corbin being a champion of anything.
Hey, he could win the Intercontinental title and not defend it for the next like 3 months and call it a day.
I mean,
check that off the box.
That's the status quo now.
Oh boy, that's just like so. Like Happy Corbin. Happy Corbin's fine. Like I actually I'm more on board with Happy Corbin than Madcap Moss of the two. And Corbin is great. I think Corbin does his best to make whatever he has work. Like Madcap Moss, man, I don't know. But like I said earlier, after the first like 10 minutes were cool. Big lull here. We had Kofi beating Madcap. All right, so it's a tag match next week. And then 1 week after, Aaliyah beat Natalya in 3 seconds. We didn't get to talk about this last week as maybe the show. They had a rematch, then ended with a DQ when Natalya lost her temper. So that happened. Robert, we ain't going to talk about it, but do want to know your thoughts. What do you think about Aaliyah picking up a 3-second win? Well, a world record
I don't buy that for a second.
No.
There are other matches that are quicker, namely Rock, Big Boss Man, Survivor Series 98. I know that sounds really snarky, but I just don't buy it. But like, good for Aaliyah. Aaliyah's been in developmental hell forever. Good for Aaliyah. Like, good for her. I'm just glad that she's doing something on the show.
Good for her. Good for the Viking Raiders to be winning matches now. They faced the Los Lotharios, I think, 1 week after they became the top contenders to the SmackDown tag titles. Los Lotharios, a team in that match, could easily connect the dots that Viking Raiders probably going to win this one, and they did. Again, as we often say, the lack of tag teams here is problematic, but good for the Viking Raiders. I think they're very, very talented. They just have not even scraped the surface of what they can do with them. But right now, Robert, as with many of the people on NXT, they're cartoon characters, and therein lies the problem.
Well, I mean, they got some things good for him. Eric is cute. Ivar, not so much. They got some things going for him. Ivar can pull a turkey leg out of anywhere. It's fantastic. Like, hey ladies, this guy's got the magic ability to pull food from thin air. He has a turkey leg with him at all times. It's great. On the real side, I am very excited for the Viking Raiders versus the Usos. I'm surprised they haven't done that match a single time. I really cannot believe they haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
It's I like the Viking Raiders. I like War Machine. I like the War Raiders. Whatever you want to call them, they're a great tag team, and they should, get more time in the sun.
I agree. I've always been a big fan of them dating back to NXT. I thought they were good when they came up to Raw. Maybe after a couple bumps along the way, but I thought they really kind of found their stride at one point. And then they really didn't do anything for a while. I think Ivar was out for quite a while, and they got back together.
Yeah.
So now they're back in the spotlight here. So I'm glad to see that. As you said, they really haven't faced the Usos, so that'll be a fresh matchup. Looking forward to it. Brian and Nesh are both saying, "Hey, why not give them the belts?" And Dieter's asking, "Do we see them winning the titles?" I don't know.
No.
It's kind of. I mean, it's in a very
yes and no. Like,
for me in a different way. For me in a different way, it's a less significant version of the Roman Reigns thing. It's like Roman Reigns, dominant champion, is doing great. 508 days. Who could possibly beat him? I mean, the Usos having a great reign, and I think you need to really build someone up to believably beat them. And granted, we saw Alpha Academy kind of. Yeah,
it's the tag team division. No, you don't. You don't need believability in tag team wrestling. You just need two guys and Vince McMahon to wake up that day and go, "Let's go with them." That's basically what you're looking for. I think they can have a really good tag team feud. I think the Usos are great working big dudes who occasionally carry around giant medieval weapons. So, this might be right up their alley. I also want to shout out the Usos for breaking their own record for the longest reigning tenured SmackDown champions. Shout out to them. They keep doing the thing. They're the reason tag team wrestling exists in WWE.
Yeah, I mean, they're having a great reign. They remain the top team in WWE. Very fair question of Anthony asking if the Raiders presumably lose, who could possibly take the titles off the Usos at this point? I mean, on SmackDown, there's really nobody. You've got Los Lotharios, Cesaro, and Mansoor are kind of a team now. Ridge Holland and Sheamus, whose gimmick are that they wear fancy hats. Slim pickings.
The New Day is a tag team that exists. And as long as they exist, they can beat the Usos.
Fair enough. We've seen it many a time. Could happen again. Could continue to have the New Day rack up those accolades there. I mean, there are worse things they could do. We'll have to understand that one. Really, at this point, nobody's really sending out otherwise. But I'm sure Viking Raiders Usos will be good. Something that wasn't very good, in my opinion. Naomi, Charlotte Flair, yet another week where we've got to wait and see it play out, because yet another week where Sonya Deville screwed over Naomi. And the feud just won't end. Sean Akoff saying the feud's boring. It seems that it'll never end. I totally don't care anymore. Yeah, this is dragging, and I think they had something at one point, but it's just gone on and on and on, and they're doing the same thing. Sonya came in here. She's so rudely made Little Nate Charles Robinson, legendary referee, take his referee uniform off in the middle of the ring. Just took it from the man, kicked him out of the ring, took over as special referee, and officiated a beatdown, and really kind of helped in the beatdown of Charlotte Flair on Naomi. Charlotte Flair wins with this blatant screw job, and as Pat McAfee put it, what in the Bret Hart is going on here? Sonya Deville rings the bell without even Naomi tapping. Yeah, Brian's asking what the end game is. I don't know. They're gonna have a match next week. We mentioned Bischoff earlier, so we know
the end game is Sonya Deville enters the Royal Rumble and is a full-time wrestler. I think the end game is she's a full-time wrestler. I think Naomi's like one of the very few people that can win the Royal Rumble, and she doesn't need a real story. The story is she's Naomi. Like, people lose their shit for Naomi. You know what I mean? Like, Naomi just gets the crowd going, and she can win the Rumble and be just fine. So that is an option they have.
I think that's true, and I could very well see that being the case. It just feels like the way the storyline has gone, she has like no momentum, and I always like to see people have some kind of steam behind them, even like it's a compromise, but not Drew McIntyre level of like being forced and like, oh, you clearly know this person's winning. Whereas now here Naomi, I could easily see that, but she's getting screwed over at every turn. So it's almost like the anti-Drew McIntyre fight, where she's gotten screwed over so much they almost feel like that's going to happen. And my preference is like have them pick up some wins. That way they enter the Royal Rumble and they're like a legitimate contender. And we're not really seeing that unfold right now. And if that's kind of the saving grace, it has to end with her winning the title at WrestleMania. And I hope it would, but I don't trust that it would. So I remain pretty skeptical of whatever endgame they're heading toward here.
So I know betting odds right now favor, oddly enough, Brock Lesnar for the men's Royal Rumble and Alexa Bliss for the women's Royal Rumble. I don't think either one of them win. I think, look, as long as Charlotte Flair has a breath in her body and is in any match of any kind, she's the favorite.
Yeah.
And I think for the men's, honestly, it's up in the air. Yeah. But I think Naomi is at least an option. And yes, I agree. The story is old and tired, and they need to move on.
Do want to point out from Brian Everett here. So this is increasingly bothering me. Why isn't Naomi's husband? She's married to Jimmy, I believe.
Because, so here's the thing. You're in a nice committed relationship, aren't you?
I bet I am.
Do you really think she could do her own thing, right? And you could do your thing. Like, she doesn't have to be doing exactly what you're doing.
Okay, but true, very true. Independence is good. But Robert, it's not the same. All right, they work at the same place. Well, Jimmy is in a place of influence, and let alone Roman Reigns. So Jimmy they're a family. Robert, come on.
No, they are a family. But I also think Naomi needs to come to a decision, and she needs to have a moment where she says, all right, I see what you're doing, and now I want to be a part of it. I am choosing to be a part of it. I'm choosing to reap the benefits of being in the bloodline, because she can legitimately say, I'm Naomi. I do my own thing. The crowd loves me. I don't need to do what you're doing, but I will support what you're doing because I know you love your family. She needs to make that decision for herself. And I have just told a better story than they will ever tell with these characters.
That's the frustrating part. We can sit here and be like, oh, they should do this, and they won't. But that said, again, it's like, I don't know what the end game is. Eddie pointing out maybe you could have Sonya enter the Rumble and kind of screw Naomi over again, and then have a ball-off match. We know they'll have a match next week. We've already seen them have a match, though, and Sonya weaseled her way out of it. So I don't really know how having a match next week is really any different. But shout out to DJ saying, just like Veer, Sonya Deville's Day of Reckoning, it's coming. So hopefully it arrives sometime soon.
I mean, Sarav came before Veer did. Veer can last quite a long time apparently, because he just ain't gonna.
It's so good. It's so good. DJ again. Now thinking of the end game here, wondering what if Sunday wins the Rumble but Sunday boost of power. I don't know how that would really work. I mean, I could imagine that happening.
I say this all the time, but it's the one story I really want them to tell, and that's everybody's eliminated before the number 30 entrant, and then whomever number 30 is just walks in and is like points at the sign, I'm going to WrestleMania. That'd be a really cool thing to do for Sonya because she's got the power. But I guess, we'll see where the story is going. I got a Tony Karan here asking who Veer is. I'll tell you who he is. He's coming.
For me, Veer is the best thing on Raw these days, bar none, because it is just fantastic how he just can't.
No,
stop
Vince
coming.
McMahon is the best thing on Raw these days. Basically, threatening to abuse Austin Theory and then take a selfie and send it to his mother is the best thing going on Raw these days.
Shout out to Michael here saying we're talking about Naomi and Jimmy saying, and he's comparing it to Seth and Becky. They're doing separate things. Can't mix business with pleasure, or can you? Suggestive face emoji.
So I think again, I think you
man.
can mix business with pleasure. I just think you need to come to the agreement that you want to mix business with pleasure.
They need to reach that agreement soon, because otherwise I think they're just going to keep spinning their wheels as we saw tonight. But otherwise, we talked about the main event. I think pretty top and bottom heavy show, I guess, where like the beginning was cool, the end was cool, everywhere in between. Other than Jeff Jarrett popping up, cool. Eric Bischoff, pretty cool. But otherwise, a lot of meh for me. What do you think about tonight's show, Robert?
A lot of meh for me, and we are getting the hook indeed. So I'll just wrap that up here nicely and say I'll give it a 6.
I would agree, and I want to rate it higher. I thought the main event was good. I thought the Roman stuff was good. Maybe not the Roman stuff, maybe not quite as good as usual because he didn't really say much. That was really kind of driven by Seth and everything. Natural with an 8. For me, I would say, an 8's pretty good, but for me, a pretty below average SmackDown. The Royal Rumble, Robert, is not this Saturday, next Saturday. So we're running out of time. And as I was saying earlier, Brown was 6.5 as well. I was comparing it to Drew McIntyre. I don't feel like there's any real solid favorite in the men's match this year. The women, you could see some. We've talked about it before. Michael with an 8 for SmackDown tonight. I don't think, I really struggle to think of anybody that realistically sitting here today, other than we talked about on the roster. We may have talked about it when we last spoke. Unless they have the loser of Roman and Brock win it, I'm struggling to think of who it really might be.
Well, I won't put anything past anyone yet. I am saying Charlotte Flair for the women's, and for the men's, I say we'll see. I hear Undertaker's in town. I will never count.
Town. No.
I will never like look. There are certain
to win, Robert.
Why? Why not?
I mean, it'd be fun. WrestleMania is in Dallas,
in Texas.
Itself, one more.
I'm not saying he will win. I'm saying don't count him out.
Fair enough. Can't count anything out. Not these days.
No. Because who else do you have? There's like
Damian
Priest.
Theory. We got a bunch of picks for Austin Theory here.
Austin Theory is going to WrestleMania to be stunned by Stone Cold Steve Austin, and potentially Vince McMahon gets one more stunner.
That'd be pretty darn cool. But yeah, I don't know. Charlotte is my most realistic pick at this point. Bayley, if she's ready to go, is not like my 1A, 1B there with Charlotte, I would say. Otherwise,
it's one of those things where once it happens, it's gonna feel so obvious.
Yeah.
But until then, we really don't know.
Anybody. I think of a guy like Drew McIntyre, if he's recovered in time, that wouldn't really that doesn't feel like Mania or Royal Rumble to Mania, kind of like that feels pretty flat. Big E just lost the title, that I feel we need to draw that out more. I'm just not really seeing it right now, and that's unfortunate because usually, again, I like to kind of think I like the direction of okay, at least ideally I have a couple of pretty good options. And here today, I'm I can't even think of really one that could really be the guy, and then it's unfortunate. That's WrestleMania season, Robert.
I see Sean Smith saying Double J in the Rumble. I
already
thought
that as well.
Look, I already talked earlier in the episode about how much I love Jeff Jarrett. I'm all for Jeff Jarrett title win in 2022. I think it's the thing that needs to happen.
At the very least, I think it's very, very possible that he could be in the Rumble. He's a legend, a Hall of Famer. He deserves it. So I could easily see that, even just for a little one-off there. But more for SmackDown tonight, at the very least, in the short term. Do you think if not for Knoxville, he was given some praise to earlier, it would have been a 4. But with Knoxville, it was a 7.5. So definitely some love for Giant Knoxville there. Herman with a 7. Roughly average score there. Laura Rock with a 5.9. Michael with a good 8 there as well. A bit of a range here. Brian Everett 6.5 as well. So average-ish kind of show tonight. Again, right, we're going, pretty full steam ahead here into the Rumble. Or if not full steam, we're in terms of the time, we are right about ready for the Rumble. And again, it's just doesn't really feel like it this year. I mean, the title matches are going to be good. I'm liking those, but the Rumble matches is not maybe hopefully things will heat up in the week ahead, and we'll be here to talk all about it, Robert, because actually, thankfully, next week should be good to go. No GCW on a Friday means we should be good to go for 2 Fridays in a row for the first time in a minute, which is good. Our apologies to everybody. We do our best with the scheduling here, but the wild world of wrestling never sleeps, never stops. So there's right. Always just an abundance of things to cover. We do our very best. So when the schedule permits, we do our best to be here on Fridays to talk about SmackDown, and it's always a blast to do so. Otherwise, John and I are here on Mondays and Tuesdays to talk about Raw and NXT. If you're part of Team AEW, as some people, including myself, are, the 2 Dynamite dudes on a Rampage, Marcus and Dominic, cover all things AEW, so make sure you check that out. Otherwise, we've got a great stream of interviews constantly coming at you guys. Bill Pritchard recently interviewed, goodness gracious, Moose, Mickey James, Jonah. I recently interviewed Matt Cardona. Lots of good stuff coming at you. Dominic D'Angelo recently interviewed MLW star Richard Holiday. So much good stuff constantly coming at you. So just leave a like, subscribe. We appreciate you. Shout out to Nesha, friend of the show, loyal supporter, saying her Monday is her birthday. I'll make sure to wish you a happy birthday on Monday, but ahead of time.
I'm not here on Monday, so I'll just say it. Happy birthday. I hope you have a great one. Thank you for being such a loyal follower of what we do here over on WrestleZone, and I hope your day is great.
As a segue, I mean, Nesha, like many of you, are just so wonderful, so so supportive, and you tune in and you listen to us week in, week out, and whenever you do, if it's once, if it's every week, whatever it might be, we appreciate you so much. So much. Nesha, especially with your birthday, want to give you a shout out. You always I feel like you listen to every show, and that just really means a lot to me. We wouldn't be here doing this show if not for you all. We're here to talk about the wrestling with you all, to enjoy it, and to make the most of it on a night like tonight when it wasn't that good, on a night like other nights when it is good. Anywhere in between, we try our best to enjoy it nonetheless. And I mean, it means a lot to me to have you guys support the show, to chime in and share your thoughts, because that makes it more fun for me. Robert, I'm sure you would agree, because that makes it even easier to do the one thing we do here else on Robert. And can you tell me what that is?
I will get to that in 1 second. But you can follow me on Twitter at DeFelice. You can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/DeFelice. You should check out Fightful.com. Has going on at Fightful Select. Follow me on Instagram at DeFelice. Check me out tomorrow at around 2 Eastern over on Sportskeeda doing the Royal Rumble Trivia Challenge, maybe with some familiar faces. And yeah, you should probably do the one thing that you always do. One thing that I know I do, because it keeps me going even in these crazy, crazy times, and that is enjoy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, everybody.